Darth Theorist, rise.
What if Darth Plagueis was a Grey Jedi, not a Sith Lord? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Plagueis listens closely to the reports on the holonet, showcasing the collapse of the Trade Federation's efforts in the Naboo Crisis. With the capture of Nute Gunray, he is expected to stand trial on Coruscant while the blockade is lifted. However, the optimism is fleeting, and though they do not admit it out loud, many do not expect the Viceroy to serve for very long before being released. He simply has too many connections across the Trade Federation. They will not let him serve lest he testify about their various business dealings. But that is what Plagueis cannot allow. While the rest of the galaxy is celebrating this victory, temporary as they might see it, he is acting. The bankers are already working on getting in touch with Nute's business partners and the board of the Trade Federation. Unsurprisingly, their stock has plummeted since the end of the Naboo Crisis, and many others are urgently trying to sell their shares and distance themselves from the embattled organizations. While many are wary, Plagueis is acting and buying up these shares at their much reduced rates. He does this either through his own finances or through the various shell companies and proxy accounts he's created. As he predicts, the Trade Federation is too eager to get liquid assets that they do not properly scrutinize who is buying them. Soon enough, he has a controlling share of the corporation, and with countless proxies who will vote in his favor. With that, he speaks to the board, urging them to distance themselves from Nute Gunray. Some of them are keen on getting the Viceroy out of prison as soon as possible, but Plagueis, under his persona of Hugo Damask, insists that they stay the course. Not only did he invade the Chancellor's home planet, but he also affiliated himself with the Sith Lord. There is no saving that. Soon enough, the trial begins, and Plagueis makes one more call. He soon finds himself face to face with a kneeling man.
My master, everything is proceeding just as expected. The Viceroy will arrive soon to begin his trial. The Senate committee to handle the investigation has already been formed.
Good. But I hope that you recall our plan, my apprentice. The Viceroy must be held accountable for his crimes.
I know, but I must ask again. Is it truly wise? We have a golden opportunity here. If we allow Nute Gunray to walk away, it might help us gather more allies, embolden more corporations and systems that might consider our plan.
No. You are playing with fire by pouring starship fuel on it. If you do that, it will become a blaze that we cannot control. Besides, remember our goal, my friend. We are not simply here to cause chaos, but to provide an alternative where the Jedi Order has failed.
As you say, my master, I will ensure that the evidence is handed over to the committee.
With that, he cuts the feed. This leaves Plagueis to stew over what he had to deal with from the Jedi before. There was once a time when he had wished to stand amongst their ranks and even defended their actions, but back then he was young and naive. He had just defeated his own master, Tenebrous, and was disgusted with the plotting of the Sith. Plagueis was desperate for any sort of escape and had turned back to the light. However, the Jedi proved to be a disappointment. Over the years, he has seen how the Jedi's rule has become tangled with serving the will of the Senate. Prosecutions become rarer, and oftentimes masters deployed them based on the needs of the Republic rather than the people. He tried to join and was prepared to offer them everything he knew, but they had rejected him, even after seeing his skill with the Force. Their reasoning was that he was too old, too attached to the physical world, so they did not bother to hear him out. After that, he saw just how corrupt the Jedi were and worked on restoring the galaxy through his own means. Soon enough, Nute Gunray appears before the Senate, shackled with his head bowed. Although he continues to profess innocence, the Senate does not go easy on him, and the allies he has do not come to his defense. The Neimoidian must now contend with their anger as he tries to answer their questions. However, one prosecutor is not so easily swayed. Dooku of the Jedi Order grows angry and demands to know his connections to the Sith. This time, no amount of flattery or cowardice can sway the Jedi Master. At some points, some of the senators even fear that he might attack Gunray. It only ends with a recess, as the committee deems it prudent for everyone to cool off before continuing. Plagueis frowns at this display and decides to get involved personally. He takes over one of the last remaining artifacts his master left, a gauntlet with Sith runes, and slips it on. The device is meant to use technology to temporarily enhance his midichlorians and make his force powers more powerful. He will need it for what he shall do next. The next day, Plagueis arrives in the Coruscant prison. Not as a Sith or a banker, but as a shareholder in Nute Gunray's company, he uses his position to gain clearance. But once they are alone, he looks over at the Nemoidian, towering over it as he folds his arms.
You have caused quite a stir, Viceroy.
Please, I am but a helpless pawn.
Oh, I know. That is why you should listen well. As of now, I have a majority in the Trade Federation. You will cooperate with the prosecutors and tell them everything they want to know. Otherwise, I will have you voted out and deprive you of any support your business can provide.
No, they would not dare do that. I know too much. I can tell them other things, their own secrets.
Spoken like a true slug. So quick to sell your fellows down the river to save your hide. Well, unfortunately for you, I have no dirt you can use. But since you refuse to cooperate, I have no choice but to do this.
Plagueis slips his hand into his bag to pull out the gauntlet, then places it against his head and waves it over him, trusting his force powers to help him.
You will confess everything I say.
No, I will not. I will confess everything you say.
Plagueis smiles and begins to recite everything he wants to hear. By the end, Nute Gunray is a blubbering mess, but he is fairly sure he will make the right call. However, the interrogation takes a lot out of Plagueis, who stumbles and must lean on a wall for support. Those devices take much out of him, but it is worth it, as the next day the interrogation goes far better, as Nute soon breaks and confesses everything. He says that he has collaborated with the Sith. Maul was a mercenary he recruited to kill the Jedi and to lead his armies to ensure that they could extort other client worlds. As to where he got it, he cannot say for certain, as the person who recommended Maul kept his identity secret. What follows are also confessions of many of Plagueis' rivals in the Trade Federation, those who oppose his presence. All of this ensures that they soon join the Viceroy. While the mysterious figure who provided him with the Sith is missing, many individuals are arrested in the aftermath, and the Republic answers with surprising swiftness, throwing the maximum sentence toward Nute. Once he is gone, there is now more room for Plagueis to act. He takes full control of the Trade Federation through his proxies and begins to change their strategy. Under Nute and the Old Guard, they were hoping to continue blockading more planets to secure more favorable concessions. Instead, Plagueis wishes to use the Trade Federation's influence and infrastructure to serve as a base of power for his plans. But to do that, he must find allies. And at the top of his list is Dooku, who made quite a stir with his harsh interrogation of Nute Gunray. However, he also ruffled feathers with his public disagreement with the Jedi's methods and handling of the crisis. Plagueis wastes no time recruiting them. Among them is Dooku, who leaves the Order after Nute Gunray's arrest. He is joined by a handful of young Jedi, who feel themselves hemmed in by the Jedi Council, which appears out of touch. The former Sith personally recruits him and invites him into a meeting. When Dooku arrives, he finds Plagueis sitting cross-legged. He raises his hand, and a cup levitates towards his outstretched fingers.
Welcome, Master Dooku. Care for some refreshments? Surprise! You are a Force user. Yes, I am. But I'm sure you knew that, as the Jedi Council rejected me from the Order due to my age.
If you're not a Jedi, who do you serve?
Myself. And the galaxy.
Yes, you and every want-to-be dictator in this galaxy. That is, until those two things diverge. Then you choose one over the other, and I know which it is.
And are you any different, Master Dooku? You speak of the corruption of the Jedi, yet you still serve them. You still helped the Senate prosecute Gunray.
Not anymore. I have left the Jedi Order, and that was what I owed my Padawan after Gunray's hired blade killed him. Now, what is it that you have to offer me?
Satisfaction. You seek to dismantle the Jedi's control, just as I want to see them gone, along with the Senate. And I have already begun working on getting rid of them. But I require a valuable replacement. That is where you come in.
Forgive me, but I have heard such claims before. There are already others with similar ideas who are working for this goal.
Palpatine. I know of who you speak. I'm sure he has told you that, and perhaps he may believe it. But he seeks power within the same system he seeks to destroy. I seek to create something new, and I have the means to get it done. You see, the Trade Federation might have been weakened, but it has everything required to create a new order. Assets, funds, infrastructure.
You intend to replace the Republic with the Trade Federation?
I seek to use the Trade Federation to build a new state, a coalition that can provide an alternative to the bureaucratic Republic. Yet this organization's reputation is in shambles. That is why I need experts in their fields, including peacekeepers.
He offers his hand to Dooku and gives him a smile. Soon, Dooku announces that he is stepping away from the Jedi Order to continue serving the people as an independent entity. He makes no secret of his disapproval of the Jedi Order's actions and how he wishes for changes to be made in how they conduct things. Those who join him are trained by the former Sith Lord in the ways of the Jedi that they never imagined. He brings up the old artifacts Plagueis used to train them, Sith holocrons that showcase the writings of their predecessors, as well as documents stolen from the Jedi archives. All of this is meant to show the different methods that they can use to achieve their goal. He shows them how to manipulate minds, how to twist negotiations, and unleash power in a fight, whether it be simply pulling weapons from an opponent's hands or unleashing bursts of lightning.
If you ask me, how you use the Force is irrelevant. What matters is the end result.
Some would claim that is a dangerous precedent, allowing others to be harmed along the way.
You speak from experience, Master. I sense it in your voice.
Qui-Gon.
The Jedi Master lost in the upheaval of Naboo. Yes, that was unfortunate. Yet you must consider the true nature of the Force. It is like that of a river, always flowing. It does not matter from which bank you drift. Its energy flows along the same path. That means that what matters is the end.
And what if someone falls in? Do you just leave them to drown?
That is why you must be willing to accept whatever Force powers there are, so you may be best equipped to save yourself and those around you. Qui-Gon didn't simply die because of the Sith. He died because the Jedi had no way to handle them once they reappeared. That is why I am here now, to show you how to avoid that.
Soon enough, the former Jedi begin to embrace these teachings, learning how to use their powers beyond the limitations imposed on them by the Order, and how to apply them in their new roles. Plagueis gathers a list of places the Trade Federation intends to target, and rather than blockade them, tries to improve relations. Though the Naboo Crisis ended with a victory for the planet, it leaves other systems spooked, who fear what will happen if others threaten them. They fear the Republic might not be able to protect them and cannot be solely relied upon. Because of that, they begin buying up arms and recruiting soldiers to train their military. That is where Plagueis comes in. Aside from the Trade Federation, the banker also has investments in other businesses, blaster production, agriculture, and manpower. He uses them to supply these planets with weapons and the leftover droid forces to provide them with defense forces. To help him, Plagueis also looks into the old designs his former master had, creating new armor, starships, and supercomputers to make their organization run more efficiently. And with their Sith technology, they begin developing a new power armor based on Tenebris's designs. He doesn't stop with armor, though. Plagueis also provides experts to begin training their soldiers, among others. He uses the Trade Federation as an exchanger of talent and manpower. With the growing distrust of the Republic, there are many individuals looking for greener pastures. Plagueis uses this as an opportunity to poach experts to serve in his organization. While many of them are expected to serve within the Trade Federation itself, they instead act closer to mercenaries. As these planets try to prepare for other threats, Plagueis negotiates deals to provide them with administrators, ship captains, and business owners who can help prepare them for the planet. Thankfully, there are still crises to help instill fear in the galaxy. This is thanks to Palpatine's position as Chancellor. This part of their plan remains, causing issues or simply forcing existing issues out into the open. Planetary unrest, secessionist movements, and growing corporate greed. Plagueis intends for these to be surgical and careful, aiming to minimize civilian casualties while still exposing the rot of the Republic. However, his ally has different ideas. Palpatine is growing tired of Plagueis dominating their plans and villainizing him. Though his master insists it's all for the greater good, the Chancellor's pride cannot accept this and begins plotting against him. It starts with these very movements that aim to expose the Republic's weakness. While Plagueis imagines them as careful dances, Palpatine unleashes a storm instead. He allows these factions to unleash whatever chaos they wish in order to secure their support. Soon, acts of terrorism like bombings and assassinations become common, while some planets are engulfed in war that rages through their streets. Thousands perish in these attacks, forcing Plagueis to go in with full military force, bringing his new elite soldiers and their droid armies. The sight of these beings marching along the streets is enough to raise alarm bells across countless sectors in the Republic. Many see this as a private army, not a solution, and warmongers wish to use this as an excuse to push for them to rearm. Palpatine jumps upon these requests and rides the storm of patriotic fervor in order to gather more allies. However, he needs a champion to help him, and just as his master selected someone from the Jedi Order, so does the Chancellor. He finds one fierce-looking Jedi who is vocal about his desire for the Jedi to take a more active role in defending the Republic, even if it means stepping into a military role. Pong Krell. Palpatine finds him and schedules a meeting for the two.
Welcome, Master Krell. Your reputation precedes you.
Thank you, Chancellor, though I hope that this reputation is a positive one.
Oh, it is. Of a Jedi willing to step up and willing to do what needs to be done, including with this resurgent trade federation.
Yes, these recent developments have been troubling. Just when we thought they had finally been punished, they decided to make their return.
Yes, it certainly cannot be allowed to stand. That is why I require your aid, Master. You are one of the most respected Jedi and most vocal in opposition. My government needs a figure they can rally behind to combat this threat, and I believe you are the one for that job.
Chancellor, you honor me with this. I accept.
Soon enough, Palpatine begins to rile up the Senate and prepare them for a war against growing power of the Trade Federation. He does not name Plagueis. He dares not try, not when he has evidence against him. But Pong Krell knows. To the Senate, he shows shipping monopolies, coercive contracts, and armed security detachments deployed without Senate approval.
The Trade Federation has ceased to behave as a commercial entity. It now operates as a sovereign power, unaccountable to the Republic, shielded by wealth and intimidation.
Murmurs ripple through the rotunda. Senators from mid-rim systems nod grimly. Outer-rim delegates bristle. The accusation is broad by design. No single crime can be disproven. No single figure can be arrested. But it points to an issue greater than any can imagine, one that spans an entire organization. Within weeks, Republic task forces begin intercepting Trade Federation convoys. Ports are seized, pending review. Banking access is frozen. Worlds long dependent on Federation logistics panic. And when Trade Federation security forces move to protect their assets, the Republic responds with something new. Uniformed soldiers. They are newly raised Republic Defense Forces, volunteers, militias, and planetary troops reorganized under emergency authority. The armor bears the Republic crest. Their orders come stamped with Palpatine's seal, and standing at the head of it all is Pong Krell. Some masters object to the Jedi being made generals to this war that does not involve them, but crisis after crisis leaves them little ground to stand on. Krell is given leeway and allowed to accept the command and even lead a strike force. This does not make the first clashes any less chaotic. It begins when a group of these new soldiers board a Trade Federation transport and find soldiers waiting for them, hordes of battle droids. But the elite soldiers that Plagueis had designed, enhanced with Sith science that his master had worked on. A Republic troop boards another Trade Federation vessel and finds soldiers waiting for them, not droids, but men and aliens encased in unfamiliar armor. It is angular, heavy, alive with faint crimson lines etched into the plating. Blaster bolts glance off where they should burn through. Strength is amplified, reflexes sharpened. Though they are not as strong as the Jedi, there are far more of them. Though they are cut down by the Jedi, many in the Order find themselves overwhelmed. One Jedi is thrown against a wall during an inspection, and is too badly wounded to continue his campaign. Against regular soldiers, they can wipe out entire squads of them, while their battle droids are almost limitless. The Jedi quickly learned that there is far more to these new soldiers than simple cybernetics, but they rely on technology far older than the Trade Federation. The Sith. Energy flows mimic dark side techniques once thought lost. Krell frames the Trade Federation not as a political threat, but as a corruption of the Force itself. This is far more than just hiring a Sith mercenary. The dark side's influence runs deeper than they could have imagined. Now the Jedi fully back any effort to bring the Trade Federation to justice and provide them with their knights to begin clashing with them across a dozen systems that accept their aid. Whenever Trade Federation forces intervene in local conflicts, Krell meets them head-on, lightsabers blazing, and these fights are brutal. While the droids are easy to destroy, these soldiers are closer to Mandalorians, fighting with unprecedented grace and ferocity. They are not consumed by darkness like the Sith troopers of the past, but instead rely on equal parts technology and force enhancements. Then the Trade Federation peacekeepers join the fight, those Jedi who left the Order alongside Dooku. They lead these troops, fighting with the same training they undertook in the Temple, but amplified with the dark side maneuvers Plagueis showed them. The Commerce Guild voices concern, publicly about market stability, privately about monopoly. The Techno-Union hedges its bets, smaller corporations from alliances feeding intelligence and resources to the Republic, all eager to see the Federation cut down to size. All of them reveal that the public figure who has been meeting with these planets is Dooku, who has made his base on Sereno. Count Dooku's ancestral home becomes a fortress overnight. Defense platforms ring the estate. Trade Federation warships hang in orbit, armored-clad soldiers entrenched with marble halls once meant for diplomacy. And then the Republic fleet appears, bearing down upon the Trade Federation forces as they exchange turbo-laser fire. But while their fleets duel in space, Krell leads a ground army and rushes to strike at Dooku's castle. The palace proves heavily fortified as the elite soldiers stand ready, commanding legions of battle droids that march out to confront them. The new armor proves devastating in open battle, where they can toss aside Republic troops. Plagueis develops a strategy to fight them, having the droids focus on regular soldiers and overwhelm them, allowing squads of soldiers to overwhelm the Jedi one by one. Still, the line holds, as the sheer number of Jedi being brought to the surface alongside their soldiers is considerable. Yet Krell does not intend to break through the army. He intends to decapitate the threat altogether and strike inside the estate. The Jedi cut through corridors, overwhelming guards left behind as they find Dooku in the Great Hall. He already has his lightsaber ignited. Krell ignites his lightsabers and twirls them around, the two double-bladed weapons whirling to face him. Yet Dooku's form remains impeccable, parrying each strike and turning them aside. He sidesteps each attack and then counters with precise cuts that shear through his armor. The Jedi howls in pain and sweeps his hands again, aiming to cut Dooku in half. The Count leaps over his attack and delivers a kick across the jaw that sends the larger Jedi reeling. As he recovers, Krell roars out and barrels towards him, aiming to run Dooku through. But his attacks are met with quick parries. But Krell's extra arms suddenly reach out and grab him by the leg and fights him against the wall. Dooku groans as the marble cracks beneath him. He barely brings his lightsaber up as Krell unleashes a fresh volley of attacks. However, his movements are sluggish, and the Jedi soon gains the upper hand. He picks the Count up by the shoulders and slams him into the ground.
This ends today. No more shadows. No more Sith tricks hiding behind credits and contracts.
For a moment, it seems he's right, and then the air changes as the shadow floods over him. It strikes him like a riptide, sending Krell stumbling back and coughing, but when he looks out, he sees Plagueis standing before him. The Jedi coming to reinforce him suddenly collapse as if their strings are cut, bones crushed inward, organs failing, minds simply snuffed out. Krell struggles, roaring in defiance, but Plagueis does not roar back. He catches the first lightsaber strike and sidesteps the second before his fist comes smashing into his face. As Krell stumbles, Plagueis crosses the chest and leaves him falling. He crosses his lightsabers and intercepts the next strike, pushing them back, but Plagueis steps on his chest and presses harder, and then he uses the Force to fling Krell across the room. Plagueis advances on him at a leisurely pace, smirking faintly as he twists his lightsaber, and then his attacks begin to rain down. Krell's eyes widen as, to him, they come as blinding arcs of light and darkness. He doesn't know how he manages to block the attacks, but he does, until one cuts through his hand, and then one of his lightsabers falls to the ground, and then he raises the other to block his head. This creates an opening for Plagueis to run through his stomach. The aftermath is catastrophic. The Senate reels and blames the Republic Defense Forces for needlessly escalating the situation. Jedi involvement is questioned openly. They question if Krell had turned this into a personal crusade, especially when Dooku announces willingness to negotiate. Palpatine stands before the Senate again, but this time the chamber is hostile. He tries to pin things on the Jedi, but he cannot avoid responsibility, and a vote of no confidence is called. It passes by a healthy majority, and by the time the Senate adjourns, he is no longer Chancellor. And with that, the Trade Federation rallies. More and more worlds turn to them, seeing them as the future, and Plagueis reorganizes them. Military assets are consolidated into armies, and generals are appointed. Administrations are streamlined, with checks and balances being written. And then, a declaration is issued across the holonet that announces the formation of the Galactic League. The Trade Federation begins to transition into a state with borders, with armies, with legitimacy provided to them by their allies. And at its center, unseen but absolute, Plagueis watches the galaxy adjust to its new balance of power. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.